Your brother is successful and responsible, unlike you. Dad said it lightly, like a joke that knew exactly where to cut. Mom chuckled without looking at me. My brother Liam lifted his glass and didn't deny it. He doesn't need help from anyone, Dad added louder this time for the cousins who'd just sat down. The room pretended nothing happened. But the words crawled under my skin like cold ants. Some dinners smell like cinnamon and safety. Ours smelled like burnt pride and lemon polish. Forks clicked. Laughter fizzed and went flat in the same breath. I kept my eyes on the gravy boat and counted my heartbeats, steadying the tremble in my hands. Hi everyone. My name is Mara, and I learned a long time ago that silence is a language. I speak it until I have to choose a different one. If this ever happened to you, say, same in the comments. I could have absorbed it. I used to sip water and swallow fire. But something in me had been ripening for years. Quietly, stubbornly, like a secret fruit no one believed would ever sweeten. The thing about being compared is that one day you measure back. Dad, I said, soft enough to make him lean in, is that what you really believe? That Liam doesn't need help from anyone? Chairs shifted. A fork paused midair. Liam's jaw worked like he was grinding pepper with his teeth. Mom smiled the way people smile at babies and bombs, pretending neither will go off. Facts are facts, Dad said. Some people carry, some people are carried. Right? I whispered, the word floating like a petal on something much deeper. I let the silence pull. Let the air find the shape of my decision. I watched the chandelier dust sparkle. A constellation no one looked at because their constellations were on plates and screens in each other's faces. I pictured the last 2 years. The transfer scheduled for the first of every month, $3,500 sliding out of my account like a loyal tide. The 2 a.m. calls from Liam, just until the freelance checks hit. The lies I told my landlord about bank delays. The way Dad never asked how I was affording anything, only why my clothes looked tired. I set my napkin down, careful and neat, the way I do when I'm about to stop apologizing. Perfect, I said, turning to Liam. Since you don't need help from anyone, my $3,500 monthly transfers end today. The golden child laughed, half-second, brittle. Then his phone lit the tablecloth with a harsh blue-white square. Overdue, final notice. His knuckles whitened around the stem of his glass. Mom's smile cracked. Dad's fork pinged against porcelain. Liam didn't look at the screen. He looked at me. Mara, he breathed, the sound a thread already fraying. Not tonight. The chandelier hummed. Somewhere, a serving spoon slipped and clattered, silver ringing like a tiny alarm. And in that electric hush, between the lie and its receipt, every story we'd told ourselves about who carried whom began to tilt. The silence after my words felt louder than any fight we'd ever had. It sat heavy, pressing down on the tablecloth, muting every clink of glass and rustle of napkin. My brother's phone still glowed, that ugly reminder pulsing across the fabric like a wound no one could cover. Is this a joke? Mom whispered, her voice trembling with disbelief more than anger. She leaned closer, her pearls catching the warm chandelier light, her eyes sharp as broken glass. Mara, you don't embarrass your family in front of guests. Embarrass? The word burned. My entire life I had been the embarrassment. Quiet, too independent, too different. Liam was the parade, the polished golden boy who never walked alone because my money was always beneath his feet. Embarrassment is pretending lies are facts, I said, my voice steady, though my palms sweated under the table. My heartbeat drummed like a warning bell in my ears. Dad's chair screeched against the hardwood as he leaned forward, his stare drilling through me. Do you think you're better than your brother? Because you have a decent paycheck and no family to support? You'll understand sacrifice when it's your turn. Sacrifice. My throat tightened. For years I sacrificed weekends, trips, even meals, feeding my brother's dreams while starving my own. But Dad never called that sacrifice. He called it duty. Tonight I called it over. Liam finally spoke, his tone softer than I expected, his eyes darting between me and the accusing light of his phone. You know, I've been under pressure. I've been waiting for payments to clear. I need a little more time. My heart twisted. That pleading tone, I'd heard it countless times, and every time I had folded. But something inside me refused to bend tonight. You had time, I said gently. 2 years of it. The cousins exchanged nervous glances. Someone cleared their throat, trying to puncture the thick air, but the tension only grew tighter. a bowstring ready to snap. Dad's voice came again, this time low and sharp. You're nothing without this family. Don't you forget that. But I saw the panic flickering in Liam's eyes. It wasn't my worth he feared losing, it was the money. And for the first time I realized, the only one who had truly carried anyone at this table was me. The chandelier light above swayed slightly, shadows cutting across faces like fractured glass. My family wanted me silent, compliant, but something about that light shift felt like a signal. This dinner wasn't the end. It was the beginning. The plates of roasted chicken and mashed potatoes sat untouched, steam fading into silence. My father's words, "You're nothing without this family," still buzzed in the air like a wasp that refused to die. Everyone kept their eyes on the food as if chewing fast enough might swallow the truth whole. Liam cleared his throat, his voice thinner than I'd ever heard it. "Dad, maybe we should talk about this later." His hand trembled as he reached for his glass. I noticed the bills stacked in his phone notifications, each one glowing like a lighthouse warning of rocks beneath the surface. Mom wasn't looking at him though. She had turned her full fury on me. "Do you enjoy humiliating us, Mara? After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us. By cutting your brother's legs out from under him." Her words dug deep, but something steadier than hurt kept me upright. I leaned back in my chair, watching the family I had carried through silence and wire transfers. "Repay?" I asked softly. "I've been paying Mom. Every single month. While you toasted Liam's success, I was the one making sure the lights didn't shut off in his apartment." A murmur rippled around the table. My cousins, usually eager to praise Liam, now shifted uncomfortably. They'd known pieces of his truth but never seen it held up in the chandelier's harsh light. Dad slammed his palm on the table. Glasses rattled, gravy sloshed. "Enough. You don't parade private matters in front of family." His voice cracked like a whip, meant to silence me the way it had for years. But the silence didn't fall this time. Liam's shoulders hunched, his golden mask slipping. "Dad, she's right," he muttered, barely audible. Then louder, "Without Mara, I couldn't have kept things together. I've been drowning." The room froze. My mother's face drained of color, the perfect facade unraveling in seconds. Dad blinked, stunned, as if Liam had broken some unspoken contract. For the first time the golden child didn't shine. And for the first time I saw their fear, not of me leaving but of me finally being heard. The chandelier flickered above us as though the house itself knew a storm had begun. The chandelier's flicker steadied, but the tremor it left inside me only grew. Liam's words, "I've been drowning," hung in the air like smoke no one could wave away. It was the confession no one expected, the one I had carried silently for years. Dad's jaw tightened, his authority cracking in places I'd never seen before. "You're exaggerating," he said sharply, glaring at Liam as though he'd spoken treason. "You've always been capable. Don't blame your sister for your failures." But Liam didn't lift his eyes. His glass sat untouched, his fingers drumming an uneven rhythm on the tablecloth, the rhythm of a man cornered by his own lies. Mom reached for him, her manicured hand trembling. "Sweetheart, you don't have to explain yourself. Families help each other." That's what Mara never understood. Her gaze cut toward me like a blade, but her voice cracked mid-sentence. I leaned forward, my voice low but steady, the calm edge of a storm that knew its strength. "No, Mom. Families don't use one child to build pedestals for another. Families don't drain one to crown the other." The cousins shifted again, whispers spreading like wildfire at the edges of the table. No one picked up their forks now. No one dared break the current. Dad barked. "You think cutting him off makes you strong? It makes you selfish." Selfish. That word landed harder than I expected, but I didn't flinch. I thought about the extra shifts, the nights spent calculating rent after sending Liam another loan, the vacations I never booked, the clothes I stretched thin for another season. Selfish? If this was selfish, then selfish finally tasted like freedom. "I'm not cutting him off to hurt him," I said, my eyes locking on Liam's. "I'm cutting him off so he finally learns to swim without me holding him above water." Liam swallowed hard. His lips parted, but no words came. Only the sound of his glass tipping, spilling red wine across the white cloth, a dark bloom spreading like a secret exposed. No one moved to clean it, because deep down we all knew the real stain had been there for years. The red wine spread across the tablecloth, seeping into the fibers like truth itself, impossible to wash out. No one reached for a napkin. No one dared break the stillness. My father's nostrils flared as he turned to Liam, his voice sharp enough to slice through bone. You mean to tell me all those trophies, all those speeches I gave about you, were built on her money? Liam's shoulders caved inward, his silence confirming what no one wanted to say aloud. The golden boy's crown had slipped, and now it lay shattered at his feet. Mom's hand hovered near his, but her eyes betrayed her, darting toward me, calculating, desperate to regain control of the narrative. This is family business, she hissed, her composure unraveling. And you, her eyes pinned me, you chose tonight with everyone watching to stab your own brother in the back. I inhaled slowly, steadying the anger rising in my chest. Stabbing him in the back would have been silence, Mom. I chose truth. He's been leaning on me for years while you all celebrated him. I didn't humiliate him. You did by pretending his success was real. Gasps broke out around the table. One cousin pushed his chair back, muttering something about needing air. The spell of Dad's authority, Mom's perfection, Liam's invincibility, it was crumbling, piece by piece. Dad's fist slammed down, rattling every glass. Enough. Mara, you'll apologize to your brother. Now. The command rang out like thunder, but for once I wasn't the one trembling. My voice cut clean through the storm. No. I won't apologize for refusing to drown anymore. Liam's head snapped up, his eyes bloodshot, his voice cracking. You don't understand, I need that money, Mara. Without it, everything falls apart. The loans, the car, the apartment. And whose fault is that? I asked softly. The words hit him harder than any shout. His mouth closed. His shoulders slumped. Around us, the dinner had become a theater. An audience of relatives who finally saw the strings pulling the golden child. The wine stain bled wider, a silent prophecy. This wasn't just dinner anymore. It was the unraveling of a dynasty built on my silence. The room felt colder now, though the candles still burned bright. Their flames wavered in the draft of truth, and suddenly the dining table was no longer a celebration. It was a courtroom. Every pair of eyes weighed the evidence spilled across the cloth. Dad's glare pinned me like a defendant. You're destroying this family with your bitterness, he snapped, his voice thick with rage. Bitterness. The word echoed inside me. If bitterness meant carrying everyone's weight until my back nearly broke, then maybe I had earned it. I looked straight at him, unflinching. No, Dad. I'm exposing the rot you refuse to see. Mom's voice trembled, but her anger held steady. You're jealous. You've always been jealous of Liam. That's why you work so hard, to compete. But no matter what you earn, you'll never be him. Her words could have cut once, but now they only revealed the script she'd clung to for years. I felt a strange calmness, as though I'd stepped outside the storm to watch it from a distance. You're right, I said. I'll never be him. I'll never live on someone else's sacrifice and call it success. The cousins exchanged glances. One whispered, "She's not wrong," thinking I wouldn't hear. But I did. And so did Liam. His face crumpled, pride collapsing under the weight of whispers. Please, Mara, he said, his voice cracking like thin ice. Just until I catch up. I promise I'll pay you back. I let the silence stretch, making him feel the weight of every unpaid promise. You've had years, I said quietly. I gave you my trust, my money, my time. You paid me back with excuses. The air thickened, heavy with truths too sharp to swallow. For the first time, I wasn't the one begging for space at this table. Dad leaned back, defeated fury in his eyes. Mom pressed trembling fingers to her pearls. Liam stared at his lap, drowning in the very silence I had carried for him. And in that moment I understood. This wasn't the breaking of a family. It was the breaking of their illusion. The table was no longer a place to eat. It was ruins, smoldering with words no one could take back. Plates sat cold, untouched, like artifacts of a feast that never truly began. The golden boy's mask had fallen, and in the shards, my family scrambled for excuses. Dad's voice, once iron, came out brittle. You've made your point, Mara. But remember, without this family you're alone. Alone. The word echoed not as a threat but as a promise of peace. For years their version of together had meant me bleeding quietly while they called it love. I met his gaze. If this is family, I'd rather be alone. Mom gasped, her hand flying to her chest, pearls quivering with every shaky breath. Don't say that. Blood is everything. Without it, who are you? Her question should have broken me. Instead, it steadied me. I was someone who had survived every dismissal, every comparison, every time they cheered Liam and ignored the hands that kept him afloat. I am me, I said simply. And that's enough. The cousins whispered louder now, no longer afraid. Their eyes darted between Liam and me, measuring truth against the stories they'd been fed. One finally muttered, "She carried him." We all knew something didn't add up. Liam's face paled, sweat beading at his temples. His glass clinked against the plate as his trembling hand set it down. "Please," he whispered, no longer the brother I once envied but a man stripped bare. "Don't leave me like this." The words twisted my chest, but they didn't sway me. "I already left," I whispered back. "The day you decided my worth was measured only in dollars." A heavy silence pressed down, thicker than before. Dad's lips moved as if to respond, but no words came. Mom's eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. Liam's shoulders slumped lower, his golden glow gone. The chandelier's light hummed above, steady now as if the house itself had chosen sides. And in that stillness I felt it, the chains I'd worn for years snapping one by one until only freedom remained. The silence after my words was different this time, not heavy with fear but hollow like a shell cracked open. Everyone sat frozen, staring at the truth laid bare on a table stained with wine and pride. Dad finally pushed his chair back, the scrape of wood against tile a sharp fracture in the stillness. "You'll regret this, Mara," he muttered, but his voice no longer held power. It was the brittle sound of a man whose authority had slipped through his fingers. Mom looked at me as though I had committed betrayal, not sacrifice. Her lips trembled, searching for words that never came. And Liam, my brother who had lived draped in gold that I paid for, couldn't even meet my eyes. His shoulders sagged, his chest caved, his mouth forming a plea that never left his throat. I stood, my napkin falling like a flag laid to rest. "No," I said quietly, the calm of certainty coating each syllable. "What I regret is letting it go on this long." No one stopped me as I walked away from the table. The chandelier glowed behind me, but for the first time, its light felt like mine. Each step out of that room was a release. Of expectations, of comparisons, of the invisible weight I had carried so they could pretend their golden child never faltered. In the days that followed, the fallout was inevitable. Relatives called, some to shame me, some to quietly thank me for saying what they never dared. Liam's calls came too, first frantic, then furious, then finally silent. Dad sent messages laced with authority that no longer bound me. Mom sent prayers typed out like chains disguised as love. I blocked them all. Instead, I redirected every dollar once drained from my account into myself. Therapy sessions. A modest apartment with plants that bloomed under honest light. A business I'd dreamed of but never dared to build. And with each investment in myself, I felt the truth settle in. Family isn't built on blood or duty, it's built on respect. And I finally gave that respect to the one person they never did.